I missed you guys yesterday. You see what happens when there are Jewish holidays in the middle of our broadcast week? And if you're wondering, what the hell am I talking about and who am I? Well, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, where we meet every Monday to Thursday to take a look at those top stories making headlines in Israel. As always, the Israel Brief is brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. And the temperatures are rising in Israel, not just the climate, but also the situation on Israel's northern border. It is day 251 since the start of Israel's war with Hamas following the atrocities of the 7th of October. We still have 120 hostages in captivity. We want them home now. But let's take a look at those top stories. And the world is watching with bated breath to see what is happening with ceasefire negotiations. This would be a ceasefire being negotiated in order to ensure that all our hostages that remain in captivity are released. We also can't forget that amongst those that were taken captive on the 7th of October, both alive and murdered, are also 2 civilians that are being held captive since 2014, Avera Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed, and the remains of 2 soldiers who fell in Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Hadar Golden and Oron Shaul. The White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan earlier today, speaking to media, said that Israel had accepted the terms of the ceasefire. Now, this is the ceasefire that was put forward by the Biden administration now nearly 2 weeks ago, and that the real issue here is Hamas. He says that the whole world should be pressurizing Hamas to accept a ceasefire. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who left Israel yesterday, said that some of the changes that Hamas want are absolutely unworkable. Hamas have said that they have made amendments to the proposal, saying that they want an expedited schedule of when Israel will exit the Gaza Strip, and they want guarantors to be China, Russia, and Turkey. Israel has said that we will not exit the Gaza Strip, that our war aims are to ensure the complete dismantling of Hamas and the full return of all our hostages. I don't think any country in the world who has seen war declared on it in such a brutal and appalling manner would just say, there we go, we're exiting all our troops. The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs have hit back at the United Nations Human Rights Council Commission of Inquiry. Now, if you've been following the Israel Brief, you will know that for a good while now we have been speaking about the UNHRC and the Commission of Inquiry, made up of several really rank anti-Semites headed by Navi Pillay, who is not only a BDS supporter, but there have been calls for her to be dismissed from the United Nations Human Rights Council because of her history of anti-Semitic comments. So I'm going to read to you the response from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, given that the Commission of Inquiry set up to investigate the conflagration or the operation that took place between Israel and Hamas in 2021, Operation Guardians on the Wall, following the incessant rocket fire by Hamas towards Israeli communities. And the Commission of Inquiry has accused both Hamas and Israel and Palestinian Islamic Jihad of being guilty of war crimes, extermination, and crime against humanity. So I will read to you the response from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs because I think they say it better than I ever could. Today, Wednesday, the 12th of June, 2024, a report of the Commission of Inquiry of the Human Rights Council was published in Geneva, another example of the cynical political theatre called the UN, and another example of the low point the organization has reached under UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. The report was prepared by an entity born in sin, which violates the standards of the UN itself. This is the only commission of inquiry that does not have an expiry date and whose three leaders are all biased and tainted by a distinct anti-Israeli agenda which they expressed in public statements prior to their appointment. The report describes an alternate reality in which decades of terrorist attacks have been erased, there are no continuous missile attacks on Israeli citizens, and there isn't a democratic state defending itself against a terrorist assault. To add insult to injury, the report is full of false accusations and blood libels against IDF soldiers. Not surprising, but still disappointing, in the era of Guterres at the UN, another new record of disconnect between the UN and the reality faced by democratic countries was registered today. And over the last 8 months, tension between Israel and the United Nations, as well as the UN Secretary General, have been growing. While we're talking about rocket attacks, we can't ignore the situation that is escalating on Israel's northern border. Last week I brought you news that incessant rocket fire had set several fires and large swaths of land were up in flame. Now yesterday 215 rockets were fired from Hezbollah positions into northern Israel. Now this follows the killing of senior Hezbollah commander Taleb Abdullah by the IDF. Hezbollah have accepted responsibility for this, and at the funeral of Abdullah said that they would intensify their firing of rockets as well as drones. Meanwhile, Israel Fire and Rescue report at least 15 fires across the north of the country as a result of incessant rocket attacks that have occurred throughout today as well. And 2 people are reported injured as a result of the shrapnel from various interceptions. If you listen carefully behind me, you can hear the pinging of more rockets or drones coming in from Hezbollah into the north of Israel. Let's end with a happy story before we get into today's audience question. And the happy story is that Israel's Chief of Staff of the IDF, Herzi Halevi, has met with his counterparts from several Arab countries in Bahrain. This kind of went under the radar until it was made public in the media today. He met with his counterparts from Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Egypt, and I said the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Very, very important as talks to normalize get on track over there. So this just shows that despite the immense criticism coming from these countries, there is still an enormous amount of cooperation. This cooperation is specifically around security and security issues. It was held under the auspices of CENTCOM, that is the US Central Command. So the Abrahamic Accords, we were very concerned, what would happen as the war progressed, but they seem to have legs and are holding on. And those are your headlines for today. Now let's jump into everybody's growing favorite part of the show, and that is the audience question. And a reminder, if you want to send me a question, pop it in the comments section below, or even email it to us through our website or through layotland@gmail.com, layotland@gmail.com. So today's question, which is from Anonymous, is why does Israel care what the world thinks? It's a fair question. We do care what the world thinks. At the end of the day, we are a democracy, and we want the world to see that we are a democracy that does care about the rights and the human rights of our neighbors, that we are a peace-loving state. However, when our security and our existence is threatened, we will defend ourselves. And I think Israel, like any other country, wants to maintain good relations, wants to have good standing in the world. Good standing in the world attracts tourism, it attracts cooperation, it helps our economy. So we do care that of what the world thinks, and we also care that the world knows the truth and what is going on here. If you listen carefully, you can hear more incoming rockets. So those are our top stories, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is at The Israel Brief. Like, share, subscribe. We are on Facebook at Lottel Site, on Twitter at Lay of the Land. Shabbat Shalom. Huge hugs and love to you all. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll catch you on the other side of the weekend. Bye for now.